want to go into these definitions briefly, as there are similarities and some degree of intersectionality, but they are also distinct and therefore important to acknowledge. So if we look at the societal model for disability, it states that a person is disabled when the societal environment doesn't accommodate for their needs. And this can include visible and invisible disabilities. And these type of diagnoses also usually come with government or academic aid and support. Next slide. Whereas neurodiversity was a term that was actually coined by Judy Singer as part of the movement promoting autism spectrum disorder as a developmental disorder that is a normal variation in the brain. This movement aimed to promote the strengths associated with this diagnosis as opposed to the impairments that are so frequently misunderstood and as well as stigmatized. So this movement in turn started with those that had ASD. Next slide, please. But it has grown to include people that have ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, and it becomes more and more inclusive as we learn more about these conditions. Something that's interesting about neurodiversity is that it's thought that it may not be easy to diagnose, and some people may be neurodiverse, but may not be diagnosable at all. And perhaps more importantly is that within a group of people labeled with one single diagnosis, there is incredible diversity within that one single group. Next slide, please. As an example, as suggested by its name, autism spectrum disorder has individuals experiencing traits or impairments on a spectrum. Each trait varies from person to person. The large color wheel in the center shows examples of traits that are associated with ASD. And we can see that the people labeled A, B, and C each have a different combination of these traits to varying degrees. What this means is that these people experience the world differently from one another, may have different impairments, but more importantly for us today is that they have different strengths as a result of this diagnosis as well. The goal really is to determine how best to utilize these individual talents and strengths. Next, please. For example, continuing on with the autism spectrum disorder, some positive aspects of these individuals are the fact that they have an excellent memory as well as being highly focused. These two aspects combined lend themselves extremely well to certain courses, degrees, and types of work. For example, in my bachelor's degree in biology, every class required the memorization and deep understanding of thousands of slides per class. Someone with autism may actually find this very easy and therefore would be very well suited to this kind of work. Another example is dyslexia, where some positive aspects here are strong visual memory combined with 3D thinking and creativity. Not everyone is able to picture concepts dynamically in their minds, as well as tying these concepts together can help them to understand them more deeply than others. So these skills, as paired with creativity, lend themselves to a completely different set of important kinds of courses and work. Next slide. The final aspect of these definitions and explanations that I want to point out is that the tools we are about to go through are not only relevant for those that have a diagnosis. For some, the diagnosis is critical because it can help you place a name finally on something that you've been feeling your whole life, and you now have access to the specific resources and community that bring positivity. But for me, I found that the diagnosis itself was not as important as the changes I made in my day-to-day life that helped me to adapt. The diagnosis was the catalyst, but the tools are what really helped. And I feel that what this means is that for anyone, diagnosed or not, you can take advantage of tailoring your approach to your work to get more out of it.